Hello and welcome to Bencher Movie Club. My name is Ben.
And I'm Charlie.
Each podcast will be discussing different films, different genres, different decades, and hopefully come up with a few interesting facts for you as well.
And this week I've chosen Watership Down from 1978. Based upon Richard Adams' novel of the same title, this animated feature delves into the surprisingly violent world of a warren of rabbits as they seek to establish a new colony free of tyranny and human intervention. You said you watched this last night, Ben.
I thought it was going to drag, but it's like I didn't realise it felt like it was like an hour, and it was like an hour and a half. But it was it's a very good film. It's very dark. It's a very dark film, but it's a very good film. I actually really enjoyed it, and I wasn't going into it last night thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I was thinking, oh, I've got to watch this. Okay, but I actually enjoyed watching it. But I did enjoy it. Yeah, it's a good film.
Yeah, well, that's one of the main reasons I like it, because of not so much that it's dark, because loads of people always say about it's one of those films which people say, I remember from my childhood the most traumatic moment was watching Watership Down.
Yeah,
I think it's just because it deals with adult themes. The whole film is more of an adult story to it, you know, rather than a traditional sort of Disney linear.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not like a Disney film, is it?
And I love Disney films, and I love Pixar and Studio Ghibli, but I'd say this is my favourite animated film. It's something so English about it.
Yeah.
You know, looking at... And it's all based on a real place. Watership Down's an actual place.
I did read something saying it wasn't originally going to be called Watership Down. It was going to be called Hazel and Fire or something.
Yeah, that's right. Because he wrote it, Richard Adams, who wrote the original novel, he wrote it for his daughters.
Right.
What happened, he used to drive them. He was driving them up to Stratford-upon-Avon, which was a long drive, and they said, "Tell us a story, Daddy," just like a story we've never heard. And because of his childhood, he grew up, he was one of those idealistic childhoods out in the English countryside. He grew up around nature, and he had a particular love of flowers. This is why all the rabbits are named after flowers. So you've got Hazel, Buttercup, and so he's told the story to his daughters, and then afterwards they said, "That's such a good story, Daddy, you got to write it down." So he wrote it down, and like one of those typical things, he's trying to get the book published. All the publishers were saying, you know, no adult wants to read about rabbits, and no child wants to read about rabbits getting killed. Right. So it was like they thought as if it was too much of a middle ground, too much of a niche thing, so no one wanted to invest in it. But I think the irony is, there's things in it which don't appeal to adults and don't appeal to children, but there's so much that appeals to both. It sort of finds a middle ground, because the adults can relate to the themes. Yeah. The adults understand what's happening with the rabbits' need to sort of procreate and to survive, and also like social hierarchies. You know, like when you get into a group of people and there'll be one who sort of takes lead. Yeah. So in this, it's Hazel.
Hazel's, and there's
John Hurt.
John Hurt is Hazel, and Fiver is Richard Briers from The Good Life.
Yeah.
And this was round about that sort of time, I think, because it's like 1978, so that would have been round about the time I think they'd done the final series of Good Life, or just after. But you can hear him, he's really sort of nervous, isn't he? Is he supposed to be like psychic or something? What is it that
he's like Carrie, isn't he?
He's like Carrie.
Well, no, he's
really nervous and really sort of, something's happening.
Yeah.
That like, is he like a bit sort of like...
Well, Richard Adams got inspiration for him from, he went to see a Greek play, and it had, I think it was Agamemnon was the play, and in that it's got someone who foresees a bloody slaughter.
Right.
He has visions of the future of death coming. So again, this is something which this film handles well, because most cartoons will avoid the theme of death. It will only have like the villain will die at the very end, and that's it, and all the kids celebrate, the villain's gone. But this shows good people, or good rabbits, dying constantly, and at unexpected times. You know, and a parallel I made with this the other day dawned on me. I think of this as like The Walking Dead. You know,
how'd you come to that?
Not with the zombies, but if you take the zombies out, you know, in The Walking Dead you had a group of people and they're constantly moving, trying to find somewhere better to live.
They're finding dodgy ones, and they're finding people that think that it's all okay and they're good, but then they're saying that to be dodgy, and there's this one wants to be leader, this one,
because like at the end of the first series of Walking Dead, they find a place which they think looks utopia, and they think it's really great, but one of them,
dark side to it.
Yeah, one of them saying, no, there's death here, we got to keep moving. So I think Walking Dead probably got a bit of inspiration from this. And also where the characters, where you don't know, certain ones will die at unexpected times. And
see, with this, you don't know any of them could die. That's the thing. There's not one that you go, oh, this one's gonna survive, that one's gonna survive. Any of them can die, and that's it. And also, it's not really like a normal cartoon. It's actually like a normal film.
Yeah,
it's like that. It's just animated. It's like watching a normal film, but it's an animated film. It doesn't feel like a cartoon sort of film.
No, I really like the animation in this.
I think the animation's really good. I like it. It's different. It's not like Disney kind of animation. It's more realistic animation, and it's I like it. It's very good.
They had to find the right level of realism, because obviously that opening segment was very sort of, because he came up with their own laws, their own sort of culture and beliefs. So they've got their own god. They call God Frith,
and the Black Rabbit.
And the Black Rabbit, and all this old law, which is like what humans do. They come up. You can say, well, humans came up with their own religion. So you see the rabbits and their own belief system and what they think is right. Bigwig originally died at the end, but it was his daughters who he really wanted Bigwig to die after the fight with General Woundwort. But his daughters said, no, you can't have him die. We don't want you to let Bigwig die.
Yeah, so Bigwig was good. I'm glad they didn't let him die. He was quite an important character.
I love the bit at the end where when Bigwig's fighting General Woundwort, General Woundwort, because of Bigwig's size and his strength, he assumes Bigwig is the leader, because most rabbits, they have the biggest and strongest one would be the leader. But in this, they recognise the most intelligent one, Hazel, is the leader. Yeah. So when he says,
"Oh, my general" or something, and he's thinking, what size is he going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I noticed that last night.
But see, like this bit, it starts off on the rabbit, and it's like quite realistic. But obviously, you wouldn't be able to maintain that throughout the whole film. So then, as it pulls out, gets a little bit of the detail.
Looks a little bit like the bunny out of the Cadbury's Caramel.
The little slut bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know she's voiced by that Miriam Margolyes?
Who's Miriam Margolyes?
You know the one she's out of like Harry Potter. She's quite foul mouthed. She's funny.
Oh right, yeah,
she's funny. She's really like, you don't know what's going to come out of her mouth.
Yeah.
She was in Black Adder. Yeah, she does the voice of the Cadbury's Caramel bunny.
Oh, that's ruined it for me. I used to like that. Yeah, I love the settings in this as well. It's such a nice, pretty sort of countryside.
It's as you said earlier, it's very English.
And apparently, because all of this is real, they drew from like the real places where they were. If you go there now, it still looks the same, because they haven't developed on it. It's just far enough outside of London that it's managed to keep like this. And because it's between, I think, Hampshire and Berkshire. So,
I was thinking, do you reckon they're doing a real life version of this? But then I'm thinking that might be a bit too graphic.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, this is close enough to it. This is sort of graphic enough. I don't think you could go any more graphic than this. Or you'd have to really tone it down.
Yeah. Well,
you might take away from it then.
This was originally a Universal. I don't know what that would be in America, the kids rating. Yeah. But basically, so children could watch it. But it was only after loads of complaints saying, well, how are you saying this is a U? Because it's quite violent. So then they upped it to parental guidance. But yeah, if it was live action, it would be like a snuff film, wouldn't it?
I can't believe it's 1978. That's quite a long time ago.
And it's where he has his first vision. So he hits against the sign, which obviously that sign's the one that says about there's going to be reconstruction or something, isn't there? And you can smell the fag. So it's like these little hints. Men have been nearby. And then you see the field filled with blood. And I think, like we were saying the other day about music, the music really makes it as well. I love the score in this. So the score was composed by Angela Morley. What was significant about her at the time was she was an early case of a transgender woman.
Oh, okay.
She was actually born Walter Stott, I believe it was, and started her career under that name. But it was in the 70s, early 70s, she transitioned to being a woman. So then, which would have given her more of a hurdle to get over at the time. Because obviously it made people was trying to hire her as Walter Stott.
So she was a composer?
Yeah, she was the composer of this. And it's good how it has human parallels as well. See, like with this, where when people were set in their way, you got that rabbit, the older rabbit, eating the grass there, not willing to move because everything's sorted for him in life. And he thinks the others are just sort of causing mischief. And they don't want to lose the doe or the little rabbit.
Also, there was a couple of other voice actors in this that I recognised. There was one of the voice actors, is it Simon Cadell? He was like the love interest in Heidi High. He was like the manager of the park.
I never watched it.
Used to, you probably won't remember it. It was in the 80s. Ruth Maddock used to be all over. Yeah.
Didn't really remember much.
And also another actor from it is the dad of Veruca Salt in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So the two biggest influences on Richard Adams when he wrote the book, there was a book that he read as a child called Three Muller Muggers from 1910, which was later renamed the Three Royal Monkeys, which is about three anamorphic monkeys going on a pilgrimage, and they'd come up with their own sort of belief system in the book, and that was one of his favourite books, and it was obviously a major influence on this because where they're going on a journey and they've all got their own belief system. It was that and The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, which was a very influential book for many people, but also with the way the story's told, how everything comes together. There's all these different stories going off, but it all comes back to one.
I think I've also read somewhere that the bloke who wrote this film, I think who wrote it, actually didn't like the song Bright Eyes.
Oh really? See, I like Bright Eyes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Art
Garfunkel. That was written for this film, obviously.
Yeah. I'd like Simon and Garfunkel, and Art Garfunkel's like vocal performance, obviously on Bridge Over Troubled Water and such. But for me, Bright Eyes, especially the version that's on the soundtrack, I liked the single that he released, but I think it sounds better on the soundtrack as in part of the film, because then it cuts away to that Angela Morley score halfway through the song and then goes back to the him sing in the film.
Okay.
But it's also now available on Spotify, where you can listen to the whole film, listen to the soundtrack to the film, which again I really like the soundtrack because of how sort of it's mellow in places. It gets panicky when it needs to, like when they're getting attacked by the rats, or when there's like this almost like a soldier beat for when they come across the other group of rabbits.
Yeah.
Which again, going back to Walking Dead, is almost like with Negan and his rabbits.
Yeah.
His people. So where they two warring groups of rabbits.
Do we know the cost of this film and how much it made?
I know it done really well when it came out. I think
it would have done.
I think it was like the 6th highest grossing film at the box office that year in the UK. I know that he based Bigwig and Hazel all on people that he was in World War II with, because Richard Adams went and fought in World War II. General Woundwort was based on Hitler.
So 2.5 million for the film to be made, which is actually quite a lot of money, really, if you think, for 70s animation. I can't remember what the name of Veruca Salt's dad is in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think he was in Scrooge as well.
Oh, but Roy Kinnear.
That's
he
it.
He does Pipkin. He plays. So these are the rabbits' names, and this way you'll see which ones are flowers. So you've got Hazel, Fiver, Chief Rabbit, Bigwig, Captain Holly. So obviously Holly, Blackberry, Silver, Pipkin, Dandelion, Cowslip.
The flowers I haven't heard of, a lot of them.
Woundwort, Hyacinthale, Campion, Blackavar. But they always sounded weird names, and it was only recently doing research for this I thought, oh yeah, of course, it's loads of them are flowers.
Let's have a look. I'm just typing how much did Watership Down make at the box office.
Okay, Kihar is one of the last performances by Zero Mostel, who was in the Mel Brooks film The Producers. He was like a big. Yeah, he played Max Bialystock in The Producers, but this was one of his last performances. I think he's one of my favourite characters in it, Kihar.
Who's Kihar?
The seagull.
Oh yeah, the one that swears.
Yeah.
We help you.
Piss off! Because I always thought that it was something else he was saying, but it sounded like it. I thought it can't be a swear word because
it's just piss off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
obviously it is, but at the time I was thinking, no, it sounds like piss off, but it obviously is something else that we're not understanding. It's obviously the accent is throwing us, but it was really swearing.
See this part where they're swimming across the water? That was inspired when he was a little kid. I think he was with his sister, and they see down by this lake this little rabbit pop its head up, run straight to the water, jump in the water, swim across and jump out the other side. And up to that point, they was always told rabbits don't swim.
Oh, okay.
And then he'd gone home to his mum and said, actually, they do swim. We just see one swim across the water. So that's why you got some of the rabbits can swim and the others, and some of them can't.
There's a dog loose in the wood.
Well, that does it.
A dog? Come on. What do you think will happen when he picks up our scent? Those that can swim, swim. The others will have to make out the best they can.
That's not good enough. We all got into this together. We'll all get out of it together.
Hazel, look. It floats.
That's it. That's it. Fiver, get on, quickly.
Whenever I'm driving around country roads and I see rabbits in the road, I think they're being like this, like how Bigwig is. I think anyone who's ever lost a pet as well, anyone who's ever sort of lost a cat or a dog, when you hear the song Briers, it resonates a lot more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when it got released in the cinema, it made 3.7 million. In theatres,
I can't see how it could have cost 2.5 million or whatever it was, or 2 million. Back in 1970, probably 77, 76 it was probably being made.
Yeah.
It's an animation, do you know what I mean? I know they would have had to pay the actors to be the voiced actors, but they wouldn't have been...
No.
That wouldn't have cost a lot of money in them days.
No. I mean, even
big actors like John Hurt and...
Yeah, I mean,
Richard Briers.
John Hurt was big, but it was still early in his career. It was about the time of Riddington Place and Alien, and just before Elephant Man. And also, being a British actor, British actors are usually a lot cheaper anyway.
Yeah. I think it's very well voiced, this film. All the voices go really well.
So did you see it when it came out on TV? Do you remember seeing it for the
I
first
remember
time?
seeing it when I was a child. I don't remember the first time I see it, but I remember it. I remember seeing it years and years ago, probably on video. Probably like a copy or something, like when I was a kid.
We had a copy in Booker Close.
Taped
off the telly, I think.
I don't think I ever see it in the cinema, but I do remember seeing it when I was proper young.
I would go and watch this again in the cinema. I'd like to see this on the big screen, like maybe down at the Prince Charles Cinema where they show loads of old 8mm, 16mm.
Retro films.
Yeah, what I liked about the film as well was how it deals with death. How it shows characters that you learn to sort of enjoy, love, and all of a sudden they'll go halfway through the film, or something traumatic will happen, or they'll die. And it's like real life. You never know when someone will go who you care about. But with the main character, it shows... it's almost like an ideal death because he gets them to the Watership Down. It's meant to be a couple of years after the fight with General Woundwort. So they've settled there now, they've got their family. And the Black Rabbit comes along and says, it's okay now, you can come, you can go with me.
Yeah, there's something dodgy about this burrow, there's something a bit not right there.
See, this is what reminds me of, as I said, the end of Walking Dead Season 1, where it's got the person who's living in that seemingly perfect place.
Yeah.
But it's not a perfect place.
No.
It's literally a place where he's going to kill himself. Did you watch the remake they done a couple of years ago, this?
Well, Watership Down. I didn't know they'd done a remake.
They done like like BBC at Christmas, they done like a two-parter.
Yeah, but I bet it was right toned down.
Oh yeah, well it was pointless. It was just, it brought nothing new to it. It was just retelling the story again. But you think, well, I'd prefer it if they just put the original film on.
Yeah. Yeah, it does stand alone, I think, this film. It's not. It's no category I think you could put it in with other cartoons.
No.
Sort of like animations, I mean.
After this, he done Plague Dogs. I mean, you did have a series of films back then which were a lot darker, like animated. There was this Plague Dogs.
That's the 70s for you.
Yeah, but also, what was the one with the When the Wind Blows? Remember the one I said about? It had the old couple.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I've heard it. It's where they have the nuclear bomb and then it's like a little old couple like Nan and Grandad.
And they start dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like her hair starts falling out and
You
then they
should
start...
watch it. It's
Yeah,
good.
I will give it a go. I've probably got it on here. Things that you assume that everyone has seen, generations have changed now, so people aren't really watching the films that are iconic. Like, you look and go, how can you not have seen this film or that film?
All the ground, like blood.
It sort of reminds me a bit of like Pink Floyd The Wall, kind of like the animation in this, that little bit there, the animation, the way that all goes.
Could very well be like the same animation department,
Yeah.
because obviously it's English, British based, about the same era. Could very well have the same illustrators, some of the same illustrators involved in both projects. There's Kinnear. So I like seagulls anyway. I like birds, but seagulls, everyone hates seagulls because they're such bastards. But that's why I like them. Stupid bunny.
It's a good character. It's got loads of good characters in it. As I say, like, I wasn't really like
looking
like,
forward
over
to
the moon, thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait to watch it again. I've never had a problem with the film. I've always liked it, but I thought, I don't know if I can be bothered to watch it. But I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it last night and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think I was going to. It just shows you, obviously it holds up. You know, 1978 it was made, and it still holds up to this day.
And I think largely that's because family films, or what you might say kids films.
Yeah, I don't think this is a kids film though. I wouldn't say it's a kids film or a family film.
Well, I'd say it's like I showed it to Lily. I'd say it's a good kids family film in the same bracket as say like Goonies, something like that. You know, it's something.
I think it's darker than the Goonies.
Well, it is, but what I'm saying is what I liked about these kind of kids films is they're not patronising. They will deal with death. They will have swearing in them if they need to. They'll, you know, it's not trying to sugarcoat everything and make it all like happy all the time. And I still think it is a feel-good ending.
It's a really good film, and as I say, but it's in a really strange category, because it's like, well, where do you put this film? You can't put it in like the Disney kind of sort of Snow White type of thing, and you don't put it in a sort of like dark kind of dirty like Jungle Burger, Fritz the Cat kind of thing. It ain't like that.
No.
So it's sort of like it's an in-betweeny sort of.
But this is it. He doesn't. I've always liked that, the ones that sit outside of a bracket. They don't worry about, whereas a studio will look, right, which audience are we attracting here? Is this for kids? Is this for adults? Is this for like people who like action, people who like horror? I think a good story doesn't need to sort of appease people. It can just be a story that someone writes and they write it for themselves almost. And if other people like it, it will find an audience.
Yeah.
You know, and it has found an audience. It's found loads of people who really like the film. And there's loads of people who try to change it. There's people who go like, well, you should cut off the very end bit when Hazel dies.
Why would you cut that out?
Because they said, it should end with them beating General Woundwort and that's it, it's a happy ending. Don't want to see him die. And you think, but...
Yeah, but it's
closure.
That's supposed to be years later, so he's obviously settled down. He's probably had little bunnies of his own with that other one, with the woman she's from the end.
Oh, from the other one, the other group.
What's her name? I can't remember her name.
I can't remember.
But she's sort of, I can imagine that, because he obviously, I think with her, probably has bunnies, that's what I imagine.
It does teach him about death, like owning an animal teaches you about death. If you own a pet, one of the best things, a gift a pet gives you, whether you like it or not, is it prepares you for losing loved ones. I like the opening of it, like the history, the mythology that they've got, the rabbits, about how they became such fast runners and why all the other animals are after them.
And that's even more, that's different animation again, isn't it?
Well, it did have a different director at first, the film, and then it wasn't really working out. The producer behind it, who'd read the book, and he'd met up with Richard Adams and said, I want to make the film as close to the book as possible. He had a different director, and I think the original director, his style was more like the bit at the beginning, which wouldn't have worked for the whole film, I don't think. I don't mind that bit at the beginning, but I much prefer it when they turn more realistic. And then you've got the mythology, all these animals living happily together, and it's because the rabbits, breeding like rabbits, Frith says to him, you need to control your people, and Adela says, no, we're the best there is. So then he makes the other creatures killers, and then goes to bless him to even the playing field, and because he's got his head in the ground, he can only bless his arse and his back legs, so that's why he makes them fast runners.
Right, okay.
But much of this story is drawn from his time in World War II. He went on specific missions in World War II. There was a guy in his platoon who was the influence for Bigwig. He used to play this game with the other people. They'd hold a grenade and pull the pin out and see who can hold it the longest. And they went on this mission, but what happens, he held them off the guy, and ended up dying. This is why he wanted Bigwig to die, because the person he was based on died protecting everyone else. He said, right, you go on ahead, that's an order, and I'm going to stand here with a gun and shoot the Nazis.
Though successful in the UK, the film underperformed in the US, earning under budget $3.7 million against $4.8 million. It was mainly because of being released the same month as Halloween.
Although you'd think it would be... I know we're saying like this doesn't really have a specific audience, but you'd think... Right, we go to cinema with the kids, we'll take them to see Watership Down. You're not going to take them to see Halloween, are you?
No, exactly. Yeah, and the original title was called Hazel and Fiver.
I think Watership Down's a better title.
Yeah, of course, yeah, definitely. Yeah, also a cut song. Mike Batt wrote and recorded 3 songs with Art Garfunkel for the film, but only Bright Eyes was used.
Right in the middle of the film, which I think works well that it's in the middle of the film, but it sort of stops the story momentarily. What was the other 2 songs then?
Smack My Bitch Up and Cheeky Girls.
We are the cheeky rabbits.
Deleted scene. According to composer Angela Morley, a scene where Dandelion tells the others the story of King Darzin was cut due to Martin Rosen feeling it slowed the film's pace down. The film's music cue sheets show the scene originally took place when the rabbits are at Cowslip's Warren, and presumably would have followed straight on from when Hazel prompts Dandelion to tell them a story. Technology marches on. Over 40 years later, the animated film has aged surprisingly well because of the lack of focus on humans and all the tech you see them using, shotguns, cars. This story could have been set in 2020 and it would still essentially look like the same.
The BBFC had received complaints about this movie for over 4 decades after its release due to the board's decision to classify it a U, suitable for all. The BBFC admitted in 2012 that it had received complaints about the suitability of Watership Down as a U almost every year since its classification, and on August the 4th, 2022, the film was re-rated PG after 44 years. So people have nothing better to do with their time. Just don't watch it. Consider, and you think, even if they upgrade it to a PG, that's only going to appease those parents who go, oh, it's PG, you can't watch that. You can only watch You. Considered to be the most violent animated PG-rated movie ever made.
Yeah, I can see that.
Most of the locations in this movie either exist or are based on real places in Hampshire, England and surrounding areas. It was originally directed by John Hubley, who died in 1977. He and his wife Faith's work can still be found in the movie, most notably in the Fable scene.
So he died basically when it was being made?
Yeah.
Because if this was released 78, I'd say 77 it was still in production.
John Hurt and Richard Briers, who played Hazel and Fiver, returned to voice General Woundwort and the new character Captain Broom, respectively, in Watership Down, 1999, a television series adaptation of the book. I'm not bothered about... Yeah, this is what gets someone knows about sequels and prequels and remakes. Just leave it as a one-off piece.
Yeah.
It does everything it needs to do.
People chase the money though, don't they?
Yeah, and people think they want a sequel. They want to know more. I want to know what he done when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
Because he always had these visions. No, just make it up in your own head.
And then when you get it, you're like, oh, that ain't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I think you're always disappointed.
And
very rarely are you actually happy with it.
And that's often like the same reason why people read a book, really excited for the film, watch the film and say the book's better. Because when you're reading a book, you're only given some information. Your brain paints the picture. You think, I know what his bedroom looks like.
Yeah.
I know what this character looks like. And when someone else's vision is shown on screen, they go, that's not how I saw it. The book's better. It's natural to think that. So when people think, I wonder what Bigwig went on to do. I bet he done this. I bet he done that. So when they finally get what they wanted, or what they think they wanted, someone else's version of what he done, they'll go, well, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
I'd have had him go open his own fast food joint or something stupid.
It's like, for example, something like Friends. You know, people go, I'd love there to be another Friends and all that.
Nah.
When you see them on that reunion thing, I looked and I thought, no, there can't be another one because they've all changed so much now, and I think people's expectations are so high that it will never work. You know, you sort of taint what you've been left with. I mean, it ends perfectly, it ends nicely, the series and stuff like that. But there's loads of things like that where they try to revisit and it's like, no, they shouldn't have done it. You've got to capture it at that time. If you don't capture it at that time and do it at that moment, then you leave it.
Right, Watership Down is a real place located in the south of Newbury. And in December 2011, property developers announced that they were planning to develop Sandalford Park near Newbury, Berkshire, in a real-life parallel to the fictitious development of this area, which prompted the rabbits to leave the warren in the book and movie of Watership Down. Richard Adams, the author of the book, plans to organise stiff opposition to the development. I'm going to oppose it too for now. It's a beautiful place of open country in the most beautiful area south of Newbury. The very idea of building on it makes your gorge rise. You know, I love going out. I mean, I love living in London, but I also love going out to the countryside to escape it all.
It's nice actually, sort of the idea of going out to like a nice little picnic somewhere. Say if you're like with someone and it's lovely, nice spring day, like a really lovely warm summer's day or something, and like somewhere really nice and picturesque.
It was financed by a consortium of British financial institutions and was distributed by Cinema International Corporation in the United Kingdom. Released on 19th of October 1978, the film was an immediate success and it became the 6th most popular film of 1979 at the UK box office. It was originally going to be released in the summer of 1978, but because of the popularity of Grease and some Disney, for a kids audience, there was a Disney live action film called The Cat from Outer Space or something. And this is one of my favourite parts of the film, where he's saying, I've been ordered to stay here. My general has told me to keep you from...
Yeah.
And then Woodwort then thinks, wait, if you're not the general, how big's the bloody general? So this is now the end of the film. Some considerable time later, after that final fight, and the rabbits have now found a peaceful place up on the downs, and because it's up on the downs as well, it's highly unlikely it will ever go under redevelopment, because what can you build up on this little bit of a hill? Oh yeah, you can see he's got grey eyebrows.
Oh, so he is older then. Yeah, he's noticeably older, so it's probably quite a few years later.
And he's lucky that he gets to die of old age, because, you know, very few rabbits do, I imagine.
I've only just noticed that, yeah, he is actually considerably older.
But as a kid I never noticed it.
No.
I just thought, oh, is this the next day after the fight?
All the world will be your enemy, prince with 1,000 enemies. And whenever they catch you, they will kill you. But first they must catch you, digger, listener, runner, prince with the swift warning. Be cunning, and your people will never be destroyed.
Thanks for listening. This is the Bencher Movie Club. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else they'll put us, I guess.
Thank you. Thanks again. Speak to you.
What's that?
Thanks again. See you soon. What's that?
That kid next door.
Yeah, because she listens to the podcast. Right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.